Hello, I'm Mark Price. I'd like to talk to you today about family. There was a young boy with his dad, and his dad was watching television, and he was glued, binge watching, I'm sure, glued to the television. And the boy, like most young kids, had questions. I was asking his dad, Dad this, Dad that, but the dad was too busy focused on the 400th episode of his binge watching, so he tried to ignore his son. Finally, he saw in a magazine there was a map of the world, picture of a map of the world. And he said, "Son, come here." And he takes that map of the world out of the magazine and tears it to 100 little pieces. And he said, "Son, I want you to take these pieces of the map of the world, go into your room, get some Scotch tape, and tape it back together, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. When you have it put back together perfect, I want you to come back, bring it to me, and then I'll answer all your questions." Well, this sort of manipulative dad figured he had at least an hour. Do you know that boy had that thing taped back together perfect in less than 5 minutes? He brought it back to his dad, showed it to him, and his dad was impressed. His dad was so impressed, he turned off the television. Unbelievable. And his father said, "How'd you do it? How did you get the countries all put back together in the right places so quick?" And the young boy looked at him and said, "Daddy, I noticed that on the back of that picture of the map of the world was a picture of a family. And I just kind of figured, Daddy, if I could put the family together, the world would just sort of somehow take care of itself." Well, see, that's what we're called to do. And these readings actually, I think, today speak to family. Now, I'm not going to read the readings. The first one's from Genesis. The second one is from John. You see the chapter and verses below. But I encourage you to read them. And to help, in the description section here in YouTube, I'm going to put a link that'll take you to the daily readings. So I encourage you to read them. They're good readings. So the first reading from Genesis tells us about Adam and Eve. And Adam and Eve are arguing with each other. They had already succumbed and ate the fruit of the tree that God had said don't eat from. And God is having a chat with them saying, "You went against my orders to you. And I told you to stay away from just one tree, and you go to that tree." And here's Adam is blaming Eve, and Eve is blaming the serpent, so they're pointing fingers at each other, and no one is taking any kind of blame. And by the way, I learned a long time ago that the fall of man, the guilt is not on the apple in the tree. No, the guilt falls to the pear on the ground. So they're pointing fingers. So you don't build family, you don't get strong as family by pointing fingers. God wants us to be honest with each other and, of course, with Him. So in the gospel today, it's a scene where Jesus is on the cross. He's in pain, he's been beaten, he's been scourged, he's had that crown of thorns shoved into his forehead, and it's blood from the thorns, the pain, the agony of those sharp needles and points into his head. And he's suffocating. You see, the way you die when you are crucified is gravity from hanging there lets your organs and your rib cage start to drop, start to fall, and it just chokes off your ability to breathe. So here's Jesus about to die and in severe pain, agony, and yet he still takes time to see his mother. And he's concerned about his mother there at the foot of the cross because he realizes she no longer has a husband. Joseph is gone, so she's a widow. And in their society at that time, widows aren't looked after if there's not someone as family to be there for them. And it's going to be even worse for Mary because here now he is being crucified, executed as a common criminal, which will even blackmark her more. So he wants to create family. So he says, "Woman," to his mother, "this is your son, John." And he says, "John, this is your mother." Creating family so that even though he's dying and in pain, he's still taking time to make sure that his mother is looked after. And he creates the family. Well, we're called to create family in our own lives. That's what we're called to do as people of faith. We start with the families, our own family. We start then with the family of faith, the family of our community, the family of the nation, the family of the world. But it's our job to do everything we can as people of faith to build a family together. I remember when my mother was dying. She was only 56 years old. Horrible pain from this cancer. So bad that when I would sit on the side of her bed, just the movement, small movement of the mattress, her face would just reek with pain. And I remember one time I'm there with her and she says, "Mark, I need to talk to you." She said, "I know you and your father have not gotten along most all of your lives." He says, "And I know that I'm the one who's sort of been the arbitrator, the one that sort of kept it all together." He said, "I need you to promise me, and I'm going to ask him to do the same thing, your father, that when I'm gone, you two figure out how to still stay in touch with each other and be family, because one day you will need it." So here's my mother, who is dying, is in pain, but it's still more important for her to build and keep family. There's a group that I've talked about before, a ministry that works with troubled marriages. By the way, I think they're probably needed now with all of this lockdown or this quarantine. A lot of people got married and they said, "Oh yeah, I'll marry him, but I didn't know that I had to spend time with him." This is horrible. So there's a lot of marriages that are having difficulty now. This is a ministry that deals with troubled marriages. It's called Retrouvaille. And in all the years since 1999 when I've spoken or done performances for them, I always tell them two things. One, that they are examples to me of God's miracles. It wasn't long ago they were fighting with each other and now they're back together holding hands and saying, "I love you." And the second thing I always say to them is, the wonderful thing about this ministry, it is saving the world one family at a time. So if you're having troubles in your marriage, I encourage you to contact the Retrouvaille. I'll put the link to their website also in the description area. So, the readings today, don't blame each other and point fingers in your relationship. Realize that we should come together in love with each other. And let's remember that Jesus, even as he's about to die, thought that creating and maintaining family was of the utmost importance. So let us do it. Let us embrace Mary as our mother, but let's also embrace all of the family that God has put in our life and do everything we can do to build family. And remember, it was never the apple in the tree, it was always the pear on the ground. This is Mark Price. Thanks for listening.